Angela C. Gray. Hey, you guys, it's me, your girl, Angela C. Gray. And thank you for joining me for AGC Global Let's Talk Radio. We're on Inspire Music Media Radio Network. And you can also go back and listen on www.inspiremusicradio.com. I'm excited about the show. We got an excellent topic today. You want to know what that topic is? It's spring forward and live. It's time. Yes, I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to chime on. If you're coming on for the first time, please come in and share it. Share it. I'm excited, you guys. Do you like the new background I got going here? Do you not like the studio? I'm just feeling this. I'm feeling this. I hope you're feeling it too, right? So if you do me a favor, go to Inspire Music Media radio page on Facebook and make sure you like the page because William Oatman Jr. here is doing some amazing things here on this network, and it's exciting. So I want you guys to plug in. So make sure you go and do that, and also go to my page, Angela C. Gray, and like my page as well. But we're here tonight, and the time has been extended. How many of y'all got messed up yesterday from that spring for a spring and forward? Somebody was talking about falling back. Some of y'all was late. Let me tell you a funny story. So my mother-in-law, we were in Blackshear, Georgia on this past weekend, and my mother-in-law gets up Sunday morning early in the morning, and she's excited, and she's getting up thinking, I'm gonna be at church early today. So she got dressed, and she was dripping, the sauce was going on, she was looking good. I told you I like that skirt. She was looking cute, right? And so anyway, so she goes on out to church, and we left because we had to head back and get back here. So she left and went on. So how about later on that afternoon, she texted me and she said that, how about I went into Sunday school thinking I'm all early and they were dismissing. So how many of y'all out there was doing some of the same things? Got messed up by didn't forge clock. She said, I went by the clocks. Now, we live in a day and time where our phones do it for us. So I don't know why anybody was late, especially if you set your alarm. You know, my alarm is set. So those of you who were going by your clocks, I know a lot of people was late, and I heard a whole bunch of different stories. So that's funny to me. But speaking of that, so let's get on to the topic about this. Let's talk about this now. I'm going to do a sound here. It's called tick tock, tick tock. That is the sound of time moving forward. If you ever listen to your watch on your phone, it goes tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And that's the sound of time moving forward. And so my point to talk about that is time stops for no man. It does not stop. Matter of fact, it moved forward on this past weekend, and some of us were late. That's a word right there, okay? And so it's important for us to live now in the present. So I have a question for you. We're talking about springing forward and living. It's your time. And so in that, I want to ask you a question. What is well-being? Because when we're living, we want to live well, right? We want to live healthy. We want to live well. So what is well-being? What is well-being? I see some of y'all on there. What is well-being? Yeah, my mother-in-law just called me a few minutes ago. I guess she must have heard me talking about her, right? So I might be in trouble. Y'all pray for me, okay? So the question is, what is well-being? Are you in a state of well-being? Okay? And so with that being said, let's define this. I'm going to read this to you. The World Health Organization, they say WHO, that's the acronym, but it's WHO, the World Health Organization. Let me read this to you. They updated in August of 2014. They stated that mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. That is able to make a contribution to her or his community. The word that stuck out to me too, thinking about this, fruitfully, it said productively and fruitfully. Productively and fruitfully. Fruitfully means, come on now, producing. We all know that God said that we must be, Lord, help me out here. We must be fruitful and multiply. We know that, right? So, but fruitful in this sense, I'm talking about producing good or helpful results that are productive. And we want to talk about it as it relates to your community or to serving others. So springing forward and living is more not just about having this good, abundant life, although we're going to talk about that, but it's so that we can serve others. So we're going to hit on some points here, and it's going to be great, you guys, because it was good to me when God was giving it to me. So let's talk about well-being. of vital living for you? Is it eating healthy? Is it exercising? Is it traveling the world? Is it living your dreams, having that vital life, living your best life? I know you heard that, or is a song y'all talking about. I'm living my best life. I know y'all heard that song. Don't act like y'all don't. Y'all heard that song, right? So, and then that, what is that? That may mean to you being fit and being, having it going on in your body, or traveling the world, seeing things and living your dreams, whatever that may be. But as it relates to well-being, what do we mean? Well-being in the aspect of a sound mind. Well-being in the aspect of a sound mind. So let's talk about it. My question to you is, how does one have or enjoy vital living without well-being, without walking in the soundness of their mind, right? How do we do that? So I got something I want to share with you guys. I'm going to tell you this. I want to talk about how facing death taught me how to live. I'm going to say that again. How facing death taught me, Angela Seagray, how to live. So many of you may know, and some of you may not, those who are coming on for the first time may not know this. I am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with cancer on July 21st of 2015. I actually found it myself. And when I went to the doctor, they thought it was just an infected cyst. And it turns out that it was indeed cancerous tumor. And when I found out about that, I lost my hair. You may see that little promo on the side there was Inspire Music Media Radio. That's when my hair was just growing back, you guys. That picture right there was just growing back. And so it was not too long I had finished my treatment when my hair started growing back, and I took that picture that you see there. So anyway, as I was going through cancer, I want to explain something to you guys. I lived probably my best life because I thought I was going to be checking out of here. Now, don't get me wrong. I have faith and I believe God, but because it was so present, death was so present, going through treatment, and they knew my survival rate would be well, but because I was going through all these different changes and things in my body, I went through that process where, let me tell you something, me and my husband, we traveled everywhere. We went to football games, basketball games, good seats too, y'all. Not them raggedy seats. That's way back. You can't see nothing. I'm talking about the good seats. I've always wanted to go to a ballet. We went to a ballet and had the best seats in the house. I could just tell you so many things. We traveled and we lived life. But why did I do that? Like in that capacity? And when I say this, you guys, I was retching with pain, even with the smile on my face. I was wretched with pain. People say, you were in pain every day. Yes, I was in pain every single day. And it was, and I enjoyed life. Through that pain, I enjoyed life. John 10:10 says, the thief cometh not but but to steal and to kill and destroy. I come that I might have life and that I might have it more abundantly. Let's talk about that. Life. There's three words I want to focus on that was in that particular scripture. It's life that we need to focus on, not just me, we. Life, might have, and abundantly. I'm going to say it again. Life, might have, and abundantly. So life meaning the absolute fullness of life, just fullness of life, both essential and ethical. Ethical meaning relating to moral principles, being attached to the tree, where the branch, come on now, all right? And which belongs to God. So let me say this again. Absolute fullness of life, both essential and ethical, which belongs to God. So some people say the other part, but they leave out which belongs to God. He gave us life, so our life belongs to him, okay? Especially when we give our lives over to him. And life also meaning real, like just keeping it real, 100. Genuinely devoted to God. Now that's a whole nother subject. To have a genuine devotion to God is life-changing, but yet at the same time being authentically who he created you to be, not a photocopy, an original, right? That we have enough photocopies out there. It's time to be the original. I call it the OG, original who God created you to be, right? I'm an OG. I'm originally designed by God. Are you an OG? That's good. Somebody needs to hashtag that, right? I'm an OG original by God. Okay. Okay. So let's look at this. Life, we already talked about that. Absolute fullness of life, both essential and ethical. And might have in this particular context means choice. Might have. Might means there's a I can choose either not to or I can choose to. So if we're talking about might have, we have to understand that living life more abundantly is a choice. It is up to you to decide. He's given us the opportunity and we must decide. Now, abundantly, when we talk about abundance, we're talking about more and above and more than necessary. Y'all, this is good. More and above and more than necessary. How many of y'all want more than necessary? Chime in for me. How many of y'all want more than necessary? I see a lot of you guys on. Let me do some shout outs. Hey, Kimberly. Hey, Cameron, Aaron. I see you guys on here. Hi, Jessica. Hey, girl. Keon, I see you guys on there. Chime in and let me know that you're here. Say hey. I just want to do some shouts out. I say hello to you guys out there. Okay, I'm going to keep going on this. We're talking about life. We talked about the absolute fullness of life, might have, which is a choice. We didn't know that we had a choice. Because some of you say, well, we blame everything else and everybody else and the situation and the circumstance. But we don't realize we have the choice where we can live this life, right, abundantly. So more and above are more than necessary. How many of y'all want some more than necessary blessings? Come on. I know I'm in a season of more than necessary blessings. But let's put a plug right here. The more than necessary blessings is not just for you. I never forget a great prophet of God told me that God was going to give you more and he was going to give you abundance. But don't forget that what he gives you is not necessarily a harvest, but it's a seed. So that more than necessary is just more. See, God's going to supply all of my needs according to his riches and glory, right? But when we're talking about that more than, that is a seed so that I can plant into other people, so I can pour out my gifts. We talked about community and being fruitful and laying planting other seeds in other people so that they can bloom. We have to help each other. Or we are brother's keeper. We stand in the gap. We pray. We intercede. We encourage. Whatever our gift is to the community, it could be something like this. It could be something else, whatever it may be, whatever it is that you are called to be fruitful and multiply in, it's time. It's time to spring forward in that and live. See, their living is not necessarily about you. You may reap some benefits, but it is not about you. It may start with you, but it's not about you. It's for you to go and forth and plant seeds in other places, okay? All right, so that's good right there to me. I don't know if that's good to you, but that's good to me. I see Pastor Carlos is on him doing a shout out. How you doing, Frank? I see you guys joining in. Thank you for joining in to Inspire Music Media Radio. And make sure, again, you go ahead and like that page if you haven't yet. Go ahead and like that page. And you can also go and check us out on www.inspiremusicradio.com. Okay. So now we're talking about the abundant life. So let's talk about this. For real, you guys. Let's have this conversation. In what manner are you living abundantly? Now remember, abundantly means more and above, more than necessary. Just take an evaluation. And if you're taking notes, just write that down somewhere. In what manner are you living abundantly? What is your perspective on life? Now, I looked this up because this was interesting to me. The definition on life perspective. And this is the dictionary version. I'm going to read this to you, okay? Your perspective is the way you see something. Your perspective, in which we all may know that, and those of you who don't know, now you know, right? Your perspective is the way you see something. If you think that toys corrupt children's minds, then from your perspective, a toy shop may be an evil place, right? Perspective is a Latin root meaning to look through or perceive. That's good right there, to look through or perceive. And all the meanings of perspective has something to do with looking. So it talked about looking through and perceive. So are you looking through your eyes? Or are you looking through the eyes of God? That's good right there. Lord of mercy. And I'm simple, and I can tell you for myself, there's not every situation that I look through the eyes of God or through his word, because the word should be hidden in my heart, right? Sometimes I look through my own perception or my own perspective. And we may do that, and that's okay. But at some point you have to say, okay, your perspective may lie to you. Just like we talk here, but the word of God is the truth, and it's not going to lie to you, right? So let's talk about this some more. I asked you the question, in what manner are you living abundantly, and what is your perspective of life? How you see determines how you live. A lot of us may not think that's true, but it's true. How you see determines how you live, your perspective. It really does. How you live, just we talked about with the toys. If you think toys are evil, then if you think that toys are bad, then you're going to think that a toy shop is even evil. That's something simple, and it may seem silly, but your perspective, that's how you see things, correct? But so I'm going to ask you this question. How do you see your life? Are you living your life through are you perceiving life through in pain? Keyword in hurt and disappointment, in your trials, in your certain circumstance or situation that you may be going through. Are you seeing it in pain? Are you seeing it in your hurt? Are you seeing it in your disappointment? Are you seeing it in a stressful situation? And when I say in, I mean inside. When you say you're seeing life or you're living life in pain, you're living it in confined. When you say in, it's confined. It's holding you hostage. It's holding you hostage. Are you being held hostage in your pain? Are you being held there? In your illness or in your sickness or whatever it is you may be going through, you're being held captive in there. I know from personal experience, when I first was going through cancer, I remember sitting on the deck. And I remember sitting there on the deck and I remember thinking, I'm going through cancer, but I also have a spiritual cancer in which I'm toxic. And I was living my life. For a moment, I lived in that. I lived in that. I was confined by that. And then at some point, I had to break free from that and embrace who I really was. And that was the moment, I'm not going to lie to you guys, on September the 13th, when all of my hair from chemotherapy fell out of my head. Every strand of my hair fell out. And I remember looking in the mirror. And the first thing that I said to myself was, I love you. Those were the first words. But I didn't feel it. It didn't register. It didn't register. And then I realized that I was living behind and living in this thing of, oh, my hair and the makeup and the this and the that. And I really didn't love me. So I had to go through the soul work of loving Angela. And so I say this to say to you that it's time up for living in the problems of what you're facing, living in that confinedness, being bound and confined. Time's up for living this way, because we're talking about springing forward and living, right? But let's talk about this. How many of you say, okay, well, I'm not living in the pain, I'm not living in the hurt, but I have a scar that is there. But you could be healed from the inside. You're no longer living in it, but it's with you. So how do you live? Let me tell you a story. Now, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And so I had a lumpectomy on August the 7th of 2015. And it left a scar. It left an ugly scar. And that scar will be with me, WITH, with me for the rest of my days here on this earth, in this body. Okay? It'll be with me. But with means that it's something that's accompanying. It's accompanying me, but it's not in me. Something can be accompanying you, but not with you. It's with me. There's nothing I can do to get rid of this scar. There may be scars that you're facing that's there. There's nothing you can do to get rid of those scars, but how are you going to live your life with these scars? Are you going to be dictated by that? Or are you going to live your life to the fullest? Let me tell you, I'm telling you, I live my life with the scars. Some scars you can see and some you cannot. But nonetheless, they're with me. But I don't allow that scar and the pain and the remembrance of what I went through to be in me. No, I'm healed. I'm whole. With my scar, I press forward and I'm going to live this best life. Best life. Okay, so I'm disfigured. I wanted to keep that part. I was surgically disfigured and had an internal disfigurement. And some of us may have that internal disfigurement, but you have to learn how to allow God to heal that place in you. And you may carry the memory of that. And it may be something that you can't shake or you can't get rid of, but don't allow it to dwell so much in you that it dictates how you live your life. It may be with you. It may be a thorn in your flesh, whatever, but you have to continue on to live your best life. And I say all of this, you guys. I know I hadn't even been on long. I say all of this, you guys, to lead up to this scripture in Isaiah 60 and 1. And I like the Amplified version because the Amplified version is, I just love the Amplified version in this particular verse. Isaiah 60 and 1 says, arise. And I'm speaking to those of you who may have been battling with depression, who may have been battling with pain, all these different things. Time up for that. Time up for that. It's time to press past it. If you knew right now, if I told you guys right now some of the difficulties and the trials and the different tests that I have been through and that I am even currently facing, you'd be amazed that to say I should be off in a corner somewhere, balled up, crying, and just a hot mess. But I choose. Remember, we talked about it's a choice that I might have. I made a choice that I'm going to have life and have it more abundantly, even with the scars, even with the pain. I'm not going to let that pain dwell in me. It may be attached to me at times, but I'm not going to dwell in the pain. It may come along with me, but it's going to get off after a while. It's going to take the next exit because I got life to live, an abundant life. I'm trying to spring forward. I'm not going to be late to my destination holding on to stuff. Amen. I hope this is blessing somebody out there. Give me some thumbs up if this is blessing you in any way. Okay. And so, yes, I'm going to read this scripture again to you. Arise from spiritual depression to a new life. A new life is upon you. It's time to shine and be radiant with the glory and brilliance of the Lord, for your light has come and the glory and brilliance of the Lord has risen upon you. It's time to rise up. It's time to level up. It's time to awaken and do that which thus saith the Lord. No more holding back because of pain or frustrations or whatever. It's time to spring forward and live. It is your time. The clock has moved ahead. It's time for you to move along with it. I'm going to say again, the clock has moved forward, so it's time for you to move forward with it. No more stagnation. Let's move forward. There's so much abundant living that you have to do, okay? So there's a famous Facebook quote, actually, it's that I love. I think last week when we were on, we had Dr. Sonette Ford Grant. Hello, Dr. Grant. I see you on. Hi, Sonora. I see you guys on. If you guys missed that interview last week that we had with Dr. Sonette Ford Grant, where we talked about what should I do, you need to go and check that out. You can find that on my Facebook page, Inspire Music Media Radio Facebook page, or you can even go to the website, inspiremusicradio.com, to listen to that amazing interview, okay? And so my PM moment, we had a PM moment last time. In my PM moment, I think about, when you talk about late in the midnight hour, God's going to turn it around. Maybe there's something that's said in that late night that kind of gets your spirit pumping and going. And I call that a PM moment. I call it a perspective matters moment, where I see. And I'm like, whoa, I can really see that. And for me, it was this quote as I was preparing myself to come on today's show, where it reads, Survivor is merely, I wrote this about 2 years ago on my Facebook page. I posted it. I said, Survivor is merely a chapter in my book of life, but thriving is the title. I'm going to say that again. Survivor is merely a chapter in my book, because I am a survivor. You are too. It's a chapter in my book, but the title is Thriving. Don't just survive. Thrive. Come on now. Don't just survive, thrive. I want to say something to you. This is the day, today, this moment, the time, right now that the Lord has made. This exact moment that we're in. You could be live with me right now, or you could be listening to this on the radio, or you could be listening to this via Facebook. You could just scroll past it. But I'm telling you, this is the day, this time, this moment right now that the Lord has made. And I will rejoice, you will rejoice, and be glad in it. Today, not tomorrow, not next month, not next year, but today. It's time to live that best life. So I see you guys on here. Does anybody have any comments or any questions, or just want to chime in? I see a few guys on here. Let me see. Thank you, Deborah. You're a rock star as well. I see you. Okay, Apostle. I'm sorry, I'm on here every Monday nights now. We're on here on Monday nights. For those of you who don't know, we'll be on Monday nights. It's a whole evening. It starts at 5:30. Not my show, but there's different shows that start at 5:30, and they go on down to the for quite some time here. And so anybody want to chime in on this? Chime in. Anybody want to chime in? Or call in. I don't know the number in here to call in, but Let's see who we got up here. We have Christy A. Ward. We have Earl. Out of some of these names I don't even know. Hi, Jonathan. How are you? So I want you guys to chime in. This is the Let's Talk radio. It's not just about me talking, but it's also about you. So I want you guys to chime in on, give me examples of what you're going to do in this next week to show that you're going to make a choice to live an abundant life. What is your example of well-being? Hey, Teresa, I see you there. Hey, T, I see you there. What is your thoughts on well-being, living your best life? Is it exercise? We need to make a commitment to one another. I'll give you one of mine. One of my thing is to exercise. I have started. Alexis Hunter will appreciate that. But I have started and I've been consistent working out, and I have more energy. I feel good. And for those of you who are cancer survivors who have chimed in, when you exercise, it's really good for your body because it lowers the rates of having a reoccurrence or it coming back, staying in remission. So it's good that you do that. Drink plenty of water. I always hydrate. Always have plenty of water. All right. So anybody else want to chime in here? I see you, Sandra. So well-being, let me tell you guys something what well-being is, what results from cross-sectional experimental studies of well-being, and some stats here I'm going to give you before we close out. Okay. Well-being, how did you build up? I have a question here. How did you build up your faith during your darkest moment healing from cancer? Now that's a good one. How did you build up your faith? Honestly, that's a good answer. And my first thing that comes to mind, it was a process. It was a process of healing. I think it didn't take radiation. It took me accepting. I did have to accept that I was going through, but I think at my darkest moment, when was my darkest moment? My darkest moment was this, I can say this. Chemo is very harsh on the body. And for me, there was a time when I got up and my husband was at the edge of the bed with me, and I never forget that I could hear the chemicals swimming in my head. And it was for about maybe 30 seconds, but it was, even thinking about that sometimes, I'm like, ooh. And that was really hard. And that's when I remember I'm just tired. I remember I had no energy. When I say that I had no energy left, you guys, absolutely none. There's a lot of people that talk about, I have nothing left. I literally in my body felt that I had absolutely not 1 ounce of energy left. I could not walk. It's like I ran a marathon and hurdles and worked a full 40-hour weekend or something. I don't know. It was just, I can't explain it, but that is what my darkest moments. But I remember as I got up, went to the restroom, and then I laid on the floor in the bathroom because I was too weak to get up and I had to wait for my husband to come get me. I remember saying, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And I kept thinking that one day, this will be my great testimony and I'll be able to share this with the world. And so here I am, sharing it with the world. That was a really good question. Thank you, Brother William Oatman Jr. there. Anybody else have any question as it pertains to that? That's a good topic because when you're going through any healing moment, at some point, your faith is going to be tested. And I think for me, when I was going through cancer, it wasn't just about my faith being tested. It was about getting rid of toxic patterns in my life and behaviors so that I could live life more abundantly. I mean, you could be under this falsehood thinking that you're living life abundantly, and then you realize that it's all an illusion. And so that's where I was when I sat on my deck, and I remember looking out at the lake and thinking, I'm a hot mess. Can I just keep it real? I'm a hot mess. And going through that journey of accepting where I was naturally, but as also accepting where I was spiritually. And that was a pivotal moment in, I think, the process of healing naturally and spiritually, because it took both in order to be and to grow and to live life. And as a result, I have never, ever lived my life the same. I talked about a little while ago about living life. I live my life abundantly through how facing death, taught me how to live. And it did. But we shouldn't wait till we get to that point in life before we decide to live. So I beg of any of you, when I say spring forward and live, don't wait for something tragic to happen before you make that decision. Don't wait for things to get better before you make that decision. Remember, it's a choice. It's a choice. You can be going through, I realize that, pain in my body every single day. Sick, couldn't hardly eat, couldn't taste anything, but I enjoyed life. Y'all, I have some great pictures of when I was enjoying life in pain all the time. So you can make a choice no matter what you're going through to live your life. I see you, Hannah. Thank you for joining. I see you. Oh, Teresa, I see you. Thank you for joining. So it's important to know this. It's important that you make that choice. It's a choice, you guys. And you either choose to live or you choose to die. You have to choose to live until there's nothing left, right? Okay, so anybody else have any questions? Let's see, I got some over here. Don't see any over there. Does anybody else have any questions for me before we close out on this week's show? Okay, I was giving you guys some stats before we close out. I wanted to give you, I was waiting to see if anybody had any more questions before we chimed out. Woo, it's hot in here. Okay, so I want to give you some stats real quick. This is some experimental studies that found out that the results from cross-sectional longitudinal experimental studies find that well-being is associated with self-perceived health, longevity, health behaviors, mental and physical illness, social connectedness, productivity, factors in the physical and social environment. I want to talk about social connections. It's important that you have some type of connection. There was a quote, and I didn't bring it with me, that my pastor, who is Pastor Daniel Cook at the Sanctuary of Wilmington, where he said this about 2 years ago and it stayed with me. He said, we must understand that we cannot continue to live in the wilderness. We can't continue to live our lives within that wilderness experience where we're just constantly focused on what I've gone through. You could be out of a situation, but still mentally there. That was good right there. You can be out of a situation, but still mentally be there. And I can say that for the truth. When I finished with cancer, I remember I was done with treatment. Everything was over. I finished everything. Matter of fact, my anniversary is coming up soon when I finished complete radiation in a couple of weeks here. Yeah, in a couple of weeks. I would have finished everything. And I remember after everything was over, I was like, because I was so used to being sick that I was like, okay, what now? And so it took me a minute to process myself, my mindset out of that. We talk about well-being and mental health. I had to get my mind well. I was living, but I got so used to I was in it. And now I had to let it go. And it was like, it was difficult. It was an awkward place. But I had to make a choice, a conscious effort to say, okay, you're done. It's time for this next chapter. And then I had to push myself because I was used to being I was in that wilderness or that fight for so long that when I didn't have to fight no more, I didn't know not how to fight. I was used to it. It would become my new way of living. But now it's time to live, spring forward and live. So I say that in closing out to you this week. I challenge you to ask yourself some of the questions I asked you. I asked you, some of the questions I asked were, in what manner are you living the abundant life? What is your perspective on living? What else did I ask you guys out here? What is well-being to you? You have to define these things because in order to make a conscious effort to move away from these things, you first have to define what they are. What is well-being? So how do I define that so that I can move towards that, so I can spring forward to that? All right. So these are just some points I want to make. I hope that this blessed you. And again, tune in every Monday around this time. You can catch me. Matter of fact, tune into it all night because this is going to be good. We have some excited. I'm excited to be a part of the Inspire Music Media Radio group here, and I have some more things I'm going to share, more topics, more things that are going to challenge you. Some things you may agree, and some things you may disagree, but it's okay because we're going to look through life through other people's lenses, but ultimately we want to look through the lens of God, right? That's the ultimate perspective, right? But we have to, in order to appreciate where other people come from, we have to look at their side of things as well, okay? So I love you guys. Have a great week. And I often said this when I was doing my Facebook Lives, Tune In Tuesdays, and I say this to you for those of you who need it and where it resonates in your spirit, to tell you to love yourself, live well so that you can inspire nations. Love, live, inspired. That was a quote. When I used to come in on ACG Inspires on Tune In Tuesdays, I would say that all the time. And I'll tell you this, it's not about you. It is not, but it does start with you. Whatever you do for the kingdom of God, it starts with you walking in obedience. It starts with you making the decision to say, okay, I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to live the life that God has chosen for me, no matter what I may be facing, no matter what I may be going through. I'm going to live my best life. So it's time. The time is now. Remember, right now, in this moment, to do that. All right. Love yourself, live well, and I promise you, you will inspire nations. Spring forward and live. And I'll see you guys on next week.